as you know, we have fallen behind most developed nations in education. I know that's kind of a loaded question, but what do you see, what changes can be made to improve education? And a sub-question would be No Child Left Behind, and what's your take on that?
Okay. No Child Left Behind had some good things in it, again. And if it had been funded in the way that the Bush administration promised Senator Kennedy it would be, it could have done a lot of good by now. But we live and we learn. And one of the things I like to remind people is that thankfully we live in a country where we write our laws on paper, we don't chisel them in stone. And one thing we've learned, and at least I feel strongly about, is I believe No Child Left Behind focuses far too much on standardized benchmark tests. Anybody who's made it this far knows how they work. If you're good at them, you're good at them. If you're not, you're not. And it doesn't have a darn thing to do with your ability to think or understand the material you're working with. So we have to make it more, we have to make evaluation more broad-based. You know, a lot of that sprang out of the frustration of grade inflation. And you know, that was where teachers were basically passing everybody. And it was more acute in the larger urban schools where it was literally, we don't have enough room to keep half the class back because we got 40 more coming next September at the elementary and secondary levels. How familiar are you with the President's and Secretary Duncan's Race to the Top program? It's an incentive-based program. It basically sets out best practices. And it's the evaluation of what best practices are continues. It's an ongoing, living, two-way street of information and practices. And best practice is a term of art we use that says you go around the country and you see what's working and you incorporate it, and you say, okay, if you will go to your state legislature and adopt these policies, you can compete for the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of bonus money, basically. It's a much better system than No Child Left Behind, because it doesn't force anybody to adopt any of these. They do not even have, they are not compelled. So it's not, don't let anybody kid you with this stuff about, oh, well, it's federal government telling us how to run our schools. If a state doesn't want to be involved, they don't have to be. But we're seeing some incredibly wonderful, innovative things happening. And one of the things I've always been a fan of, and it may have had something to do with in my elementary years, I had 2 years at least of Catholic elementary school, and the teachers were the if you're familiar with the Roman Catholic parochial school system, the teachers, for the most part, and in my case in South Georgia, a lot of Irish nuns, were the ones that actually ran the school. There wasn't all the teachers and then the separate branch of the school where all the administrators hung out. And I think one of the more promising models I see and that I'll always advocate is a teacher-centered school, where we start phasing out some of these folks who've never taught a day in their life. They just happen to manage to get into a good ed program at a prestigious school and went all the way into, they got their EDD. And we pay them like 10 times what we pay teachers, so they can sit there and tell teachers how to teach. That's a big thing. Race to the top is preferable over No Child Left Behind, because bizarrely enough, after a couple of years, what we saw happening was, it wasn't necessarily the way it was written, it was the way it was being executed. But under No Child Left Behind, we had the bizarre result that the worst shape the school was in, well, how do you fix it? Well, you don't fix it, you just cut off their money or close their school. And that's upside down, folks. If you identify a school that has problems, get in there and fix it. Don't tell them, oh, well, you know, we can't help you. Because disproportionately, No Child Left Behind hurts schools that have large minority populations, and particularly, and this one is incredibly important in this part of the state, where you have whole student bodies where English is a second language, and our standardized tests are not written for them. And their benchmark results have to be in English. They have to achieve these levels in the English version of the test. Now, that's a great goal, but for one school, you know, if you have a suburban elementary school where you have mostly native-born Anglo-Saxon Americans, and then one, you know, 6 blocks away on the other side of town, in Arkansas, 6 blocks can be the other side of town, where you have the majority of your student body who are speaking and reading English as a second language. Which school is going to get better marks? And so under No Child Left Behind, we decrease funding this one and give these more. It is a perverse outcome, and we need to change it. Secondary, on the post-secondary level, here's another one you can file away for what did we get done in 22 months. The reforms to the student loan program are incredible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the full impact of it yet, but you will and when you get out of here and have to start paying them back, and you can pay at a low government rate, and you're not also making Citibank rich with every month's payment. That was an incredible thing. Because we can't afford to go to school, it doesn't matter how smart you are. The universities, for the most part, in great shape, but something that concerns me, and if elected to Congress, I'll work with the governor and with state legislators and state education experts. Arkansas remains at or near the very bottom in the percentage of its people with even a bachelor's degree. We send a lot of people to college and university every year. We get very few of them out the other end. And we need to work with the state to find what is the deal there. How do we shift from emphasizing just recruitment to how, you know, we focus on how many did you bring in and what were their average SATs or ACTs. We need to go, how many did you graduate? And are they working? You know, that's always kind of been an afterthought, even when I was here. I mean, they do like they have a career services thing, they do an after graduation survey, but their funding isn't based on it. So we've got to, in Arkansas in particular, and with the flagship university being in my district, it is incredibly important that we find some way to get more Arkansans to graduate and actually walk out of